Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you had a lovely evening yesterday, and I hope you are starting with a wonderful morning and that you are fully energized for everything that we have in store for you today. So what do we have in store for you today? Well, we're going to talk again to investors, we'll witness some big pictures, but we also are going to talk a little bit about how to bring startups to a scale-up phase. And apart from those kind of sessions, there is much, much more that we have lined up for you, both in this room and in the other rooms outside. So ladies and gentlemen, I won't make it too long, and it is my great pleasure to first introduce to you for the opening of today, Tim Bestwick, the chair of EUREKA.
Good morning. Welcome to the EUREKA Global Innovation Summit, Day 2. I hope it's okay, but I asked the events team for a report on you for yesterday. I thought I'd better see what they thought of you. Of course, they talked about the buzz and all the stuff that was going on. There was a lot of, fantastic energy. Everybody commented on the energy. There are two things I'd like to report to you about you from yesterday. One is you're super friendly, apparently. That's great. Isn't that what we want from an innovation event? They said, super friendly bunch. And you do like ice cream. I suppose that might be a function of the weather, and I can assure you that when we were planning this event, we hadn't really anticipated extended period of warm, sunny weather in Manchester, but I guess that has contributed to the appetite for ice cream. So I hope you had a great and productive day yesterday. I was walking around the event, and I was hugely excited by what was going on. We had a series of events on future-proofing in here that were some really fascinating sessions. And one of the things that sticks in my mind is the utilization of seats in our car journeys, 1% utilization, and that's a really sobering thought. And there was some also really important discussion about clean energy. And following on from that, as part of the career day, we had a really interesting exposition about how fuel cells and batteries are used in different parts of the transportation market. Upstairs, there was lots of matchmaking going on. The matchmaking room was almost full most of the time I saw it. And today, I'd really urge you to go and visit also the Spotlights area. There's some extraordinarily innovative companies on the Spotlights area just towards the back on this level, and up to the Global Expert Bar as well. And one of the things I'd like you to do today, if that's all right, apart from having all your important networking meetings, is go and have your photo taken. There's a little kind of photo booth thing upstairs. You have your picture taken, and we put it on a map of the world, and it just shows what an extraordinary global innovation community is collected here. It's a really nice visual representation of that. So please, if you haven't had it done already, go and have your picture taken upstairs. So I hope you have a productive day today, an enjoyable day. To open our program this morning, I'm delighted to welcome Lord Willetts to talk to us. David Willetts was the Minister for Science and Innovation from 2010 to 2014, and really has a widely respected reputation as a great champion of research and innovation. So it's very appropriate that he comes and opens our session today on Day 2. David Willetts.
Thank you very much to Charlotte and Tim, and thank you for the opportunity to be with you today at this fantastic event, and fantastic above all because it brings together innovation agencies from different countries across Europe and more widely, and of course different businesses and startups as well. And what always fascinates me about innovation policy is there are different ways of doing it. There is no single right way, and we can all learn from each other, and of course not just learn from each other, but actively collaborate. Now, I don't know whether you've had much discussion of what in Britain we call the B word of Brexit. I'm no longer a member of the British government, so I can say what I think about Brexit. I think it's bad news. I think it's bad news for Britain, and I think, sadly, it's bad news for our friends and partners across the EU as well. And it has the paradoxical effect of actually making it even more important that we in Britain work energetically and actively with international agencies, with individual partners in other European countries. And of course, there is still just a chance it won't happen. You never know. You never know. I was on the march for a people's vote, a second vote, earlier this year. Nearly 1 million of us, described as the longest ever queue for Waitrose. But I still hope that that call for a second vote will be heard. But if Brexit does go ahead, it will be, I think you will see, even with a British government delivering Brexit, renewed effort put into strengthening the international partnerships that we still have. And in fact, EUREKA is a very good example of what we need to support with even more commitment, because EUREKA is an intergovernmental organization. It is not an EU agency, though the EU Commission are very welcome members of it. It was created back in the 1980s by the governments of France, Germany, the UK, and others. And it's absolutely crucial that the UK continues and extends its involvement in EUREKA. And I think you will see similar efforts in a range of R&D organizations. We're very proud to have EMBL, EBI, European Bioinformatics Institute. One of its main bases is outside Cambridge, next to the Sanger Institute, which I chair. We'll continue to be very strong supporters of that. We have got very near here the Square Kilometre Array, a really exciting intergovernmental scientific project which many European countries participate in. We will be strongly committed to that. The European Space Agency is a fantastic intergovernmental organization. So we will be even more committed to offset the damage of Brexit by being active in those sorts of organizations. And not just in Europe, but internationally. As the science minister, I set up the Newton Fund, which was our first funding for research collaboration with developing countries across the world, China, India, in Africa, in Latin America, with Brazil. And that kind of international participation and collaboration has grown as well. And we mustn't be in any way complacent about the strengths we have in Europe. If you want to find entrepreneurs thinking of innovative ways of using mobile phones to deliver new services, East Africa is probably one of the liveliest places in the world that you will see that. If you want to see countries that are really making advances in registering their population and delivering services to them, what they've been doing in India for the last 5 years is very impressive. So these partnerships have to be based on mutual respect and mutual learning. Now, just briefly, let me describe where I think we've got to in the UK, because we have just created a new organization, UKRI, UK Research and Innovation. I sit on its board and have been closely involved in getting the new structure up and running. And it has, our research system has strengths, but it also has weaknesses and challenges where we want to learn from other people. I would say on the strength side, we have a very strong research base that for the public funding we put in, generates more high quality academic research than almost any other system in the world. And it's got a very unusual, striking kind of dual funding model behind it. We first of all fund research in universities directly through the Research Excellence Framework, and that directly promotes research excellence across our universities with patient funding that they secure for 7 years at a time. It's core institutional funding for our research-intensive universities. And then separately, through our research councils, we fund individual projects, research projects on their merits. And that is a more transactional way of funding research and takes no account of seniority, prestige, age. In fact, one of the metrics I followed most closely as the science minister keen to promote innovation was the age distribution of the principal investigators winning research grants from our research councils, because it was so important that younger researchers in their 30s had a fair chance of getting grants. That's often, let's face it, where the most innovative ideas come from. And going around the labs in our universities and research institutes, you'd often meet young researchers from Italy or Germany or Spain or France, and one of the reasons they were here was that they felt they had a greater opportunity of shaping their own research program without having to do a very long apprenticeship under a dominant professorial figure who determined a research program for them. So we've got two streams of funding that combine patient funding and funding for individual projects. We provide an environment where we try to attract and support younger researchers, and we've got quite a wide mix of disciplines. Those are our strengths. But we also have challenges, and challenges where we can certainly learn from other countries. And the cliche that Britain has great science, but we're not always good at applying it and commercializing it, the cliche has got a lot of truth to it. We need to raise our game in promoting innovation in the way that you as members of EUREKA are all committed to. And let me just list some of the challenges, therefore, that we face and what we are doing about it. First of all, we have relatively few UK headquartered, very large companies with substantial R&D spend. We're very fortunate with the ones we have got, the BPs, Rolls-Royces, GSKs, but big companies with very substantial research budgets pulling through research from research institutes and themselves promoting networks of SMEs around them are one of the strengths of many of the leading continental countries, and we simply don't have so many here. That's why a key part of our strategy has been to attract overseas investment. Major companies whose headquarters might be across Europe or the US or China, looking to the UK is nevertheless a place to locate a lot of their R&D activities. So we're always trying to pitch to others, and our research and development activity has always had a bigger international mix than most, and it's why Brexit is such a potential risk and why we need to absolutely do our best to continue to attract that kind of international investment. Often those international players